morning sun shines on the gleaming hide of a muscular ranch horse. The aroma of bacon and coffee drifts from the wood cook stove at a cow camp. Silver spurs jingle as the men and women of the West get set for another day in the saddle. From the heart of Canada's finest ranching country, this is the Spirit of the West with rancher and horse trainer Hugh McLennan and his collection of music, poetry, and conversations with the folks who live and work with horses and cattle in the Spirit of the West.
He was inducted into the Canadian Cutting Horse Rider Hall of Fame in 2004 and the CCHA Hall of Fame in 2009. The Black Elk Legends Award winner in 2021. A ranch raised in southern Saskatchewan, a pasture rider, a working cowboy, and a feedlot cowboy, Les Timmons is still active in the horse world and a proven trainer, NCHA judge, NRCHA judge, and past CCHA president, and show production consultant, and much more. Nice guy, and today we're going to go back to some of the early days for Les Timmons and some of his memories of starting out heeling calves in the branding pen.
You start missing more and you start sweating more, and it just goes from bad to worse.
And speaking of calves, those good-looking steer calves are showing a lot of promise this year, and the market is looking good too, as you'll hear on the Rangeland News.
The tighter inventories in cattle feedlots are just one component behind supportive prices for beef.
Lots of pure cowboy content this week, including a fine piece of poetry.
While the computer tech works away in his custom lumbar chair, I'm sitting in my custom saddle and riding my smoothest mare.
On the Irvin Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File, riding is still great once you're in the saddle, but you know, as the years go by, getting up there seems to get harder, and I'll have a few tips that hopefully might make it easier for you. And we'll take you back to the early days of Les Timmons after Michael Martin Murphy sets the mood.
Well, they mixed a little Celtic with Spanish blood and a dash of thoroughbred. So the legend begins of America's horse, a horse with a level head. If he's cutting cattle out on the ranch or making some cowboy shine, there's never been a horse like America's horse crossing that finish line. Oh yes, I'm a quarter horse rider. Saddle up and let me run. America's horse won't let you down when there's running or work to be done. And there's work to be done. Oh, give me a pony that's got some sense and knows how to work a cow. A horse that's rugged and keeps his head, takes off running right now. You can bet your money and bet your boots when he runs that quarter mile. You tie that calf in money time while the fans in the stands go wild. Oh yes, I'm a quarter horse rider. Saddle up and let me run. America's horse won't let you down when there's running or work to be done. And there's work to be done. All the names of the ones that went before will live on through all time. Old Janus and Sir Archie in colonial days started the great bloodline. There was Steel Dust Traveler, Old Kodak, Little Joe King and Peter McHugh, Yellow Jacket, Cowboy, Old Joe Bailey, Jenny and Della Moore too. There was Shiloh, Billy and Locks Rondo, how old and Tucker could run. Old Fred, Xenophon, Concho Colonel, and Joe Hancock, the mighty
When I sat down to visit with this legend of the horse world, I asked Les Timmons where his connection with horses first began.
Well, that goes back to probably about the day I was born. And I was born and raised on a big ranch in southern Saskatchewan that was actually part of the old 76 ranch way back when. And my dad ranched and still ranches. And so that's where I got my start. I always had a love for horses, and I started starting colts in the summertime. I'd ride colts all summer for neighboring ranchers and stuff, and time to go back to school, they went back home.
And did you go to college from there, or high school in what would be the biggest town close to the 76?
Well, Swift Current, Saskatchewan is 75 miles from Val-Marie. Val-Marie is virtually really right on the U.S. border.
Right.
And I actually took a tech school. Last two years of school I went to, took agriculture and stuff like that, grades 11 and 12.
That's some beautiful country down there, if I recall. I've been down through Maple Creek, Swift Current, and seen the sand hills and the cypress hills, and it just looked to me like pretty nice country to be horseback in.
That's great country to be horseback in. And sometimes it was a little tough to make a living because it can be very dry. It's very arid country, and you know, we won't run very many cows per quarter section. That's why some of those ranches were so big, 50, 60, 100 sections big, but they only run 400 head of cows.
Man, oh man. Have you got some recollections when you were real young of some of the gathers and the brandings and maybe some of the first jobs that you had to do?
You know, there was a bunch of experiences when Walt Larson, that owned the ranch I was raised on, was actually a foreman on the 76, and when the 76 broke up, he got this ranch as part of his retirement package or whatever from the 76. So there was lots of really good times just riding over the hills, gathering cows.
There's a song on our Creak of the Leather album about a young horse who had so much promise until something went wrong, and you'll hear that story, along with more about Les Timmons and his working cowboy days, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. We still have a few spots available on the 2026 Spirit of the West cruise, a once-in-a-lifetime bucket list journey aboard Oceania's beautiful new ship, the Vista. On February 16th, our group flies to Lima, Peru, then visits exotic Machu Picchu, and you'll spend the next 15 days cruising and exploring some of the most exotic ports ever. And you don't have to walk or climb mountains. We've lined up trains and planes and ground transportation for anyone with mobility issues. Every cabin has a balcony, drinks, gratuity, and Wi-Fi all included, and specialty dining restaurants at no extra charge. Our allotment of cabins is almost full, but if you act fast, we might still be able to get you on board. See the cruise page at hugh-mclennan.com and call 1-800-530-0131. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. For a lot of years, I'd take a couple of horses down to Jonathan Field's James Creek Ranch camps, and I'd spend a couple of great weeks riding and helping some of his riders with the art and science of cattle handling. I'd always pack my guitar, and for some reason, in the evening after supper, folks would gather around and ask me to share some songs and stories. And there was one song that they always insisted I do, even though it had some of them wiping away a few tears. You'll hear it after Les Timmons and I swap some ranching and branding stories.
When would calving start out in that kind of country when you were young? Were they?
Calving never started till on the cow herds generally end of April, early May. And we used to, first calf heifers and stuff, we'd try to get them calved out earlier, but never turned the bulls out with the main cow herd till 15th of June.
Mm-hmm. So your brandings would be May, June, in around there?
Yeah, end of May, early June. Yeah, just usually the bulls went out right after branding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And were those pretty big brandings, dragging calves to the fire, good healers on horseback? And
Yeah. You know, we We'd usually try to run on those spreads like the Dixon Place and the Larson Ranch would run 400 or 500 head of cows. We'd have 2, maybe 3 brandings.
And they were the kind of the social event in the district?
Oh, definitely. There were some weeks at a time you just went from one place to the next and just the whole crew just circulated around.
Can you remember the first time that you were turned loose in the branding pen with a rope in your hand? Or were you too young to remember?
I don't really remember, but I'm sure it wasn't all that pretty.
It seems like every eye in the place is on you when you're doing that for the first time.
Oh, definitely. You know all your mentors and the people that you totally looked up to so much. You didn't want to miss, you didn't want to be in a wreck, so you're sweating. So then, of course, the nerves get higher, and you start missing more, and you start sweating more, and it just goes from bad to worse.
I know the feeling, and my hand cramps up, and my fingers won't work right. Oh, man.
That's right.
Yeah, I remember bringing a calf in by one heel, and the ground crew was a little green, and they tended to sort of chase that calf back up your road towards your horse. And the calf ran around behind the platform where the tagger torch was sitting heating the irons, and he was on one end of my rope, I was on the other side with the other end of my rope, and it knocked over the tagger torch and set the grass on fire and started burning the corral rails and brought everything to a stop. But I was told, don't bring him in like that anymore.
That's right. Oh yeah, I've heard that story many times. Of course, our fires way back then, there was no tiger torches. It was all wood fires.
That's nicer, isn't it? A little quieter.
Old cedar posts and a lot of willows, because diamond willow burned really hot and for a long time too.
Well, Les talks about how his performance horse career got started after the true story written by R.W. Hampton about a horse called Sancho. In the Arizona desert where the tall saguaros grow, the purple Bradshaw Mountains rise and the Aulafria flows. Down in a lonesome sand wash where no man should ever go, a buzzard picks the sun-bleached bones of the horse that I call Sancho. Sancho was a good horse, best one I've ever owned. His blood was hot as the desert sun, stout of heart and bone. A rangy, long blood-colored bay, he was only 4 past old. The day I drug my saddle from the horse that I call Sancho, we were rounding up the slick ones and our work was almost done, when I jumped another maverick bunch for one last downhill run. I should have known he'd had enough, but I just had to go and catch another wild cow brood on the horse that I call Sancho. Down a rough and a rocky mountainside for 2 and 1 mile more, had to beat and cut 'em off down to the desert floor, through the boulders and the cholla to the sandy wash below. Work no thing as quit or stop in the horse that I call Sancho. We closed the gap on a brindle cow of maybe 2 or 3, jerked her down and I tied her up to a Palo Verde tree. Then I loosened off the cinches so my old part could blow, but breath came short from the mighty lungs of the horse that I call Sancho. all at once he faltered, his knees began to go. So big of heart and stout of will, he never let me know I'd given him a job to do, a job that he loved so. As the sun set in the west, so did the heart of Sancho. Down in the darkened desert where no man could ever see, the tears I cried for an honest horse who gave his all for me. If heaven's got a home for him, I know that's where he'll be. Standing saddled ready in the home that waits for me. In the Arizona desert where the tall saguaros grow, the purple Bradshaw Mountains rise, the Agua Fria flows. Down in a lonesome sand wash where no man should ever go, a buzzard picks the sun-bleached bones of the horse that I call Sancho. A buzzard picks the sun-bleached bones of the horse that I call Sancho. Yeah, it took me a while before I could get through that one on stage. And now, let's get back to Les Timmons.
When did your horse show career get going?
When I was in high school, I was in 4-H, and when I finished 4-H, I was a leader for a while. But 4-H is when I first started showing horses, but even at that time, I carried on from there to hang out my shingle as a trainer, and even when I was through 4-H, I didn't even realize there was such a thing as a professional horse trainer. I didn't take the route that a lot of the young guys today go work for a trainer and be an assistant trainer for a period of time and then work your way up the ropes. I just, from starting colts for the public, I guess I was a professional trainer when I was 12 years old, if you want to call it that. But in the real world, I just moved to Alberta and said, here I am, guys, I'm a trainer.
You remember how much you charged when you were 12 years old?
I think it was $350 for the summer, and my dad fed them.
Oh, yeah, right. And then when you moved to Alberta, did you get into a little bit of more specialization than just starting colts?
To start with, no. I just, mostly I just started colts. I started a bunch of ranch horses, a few rope horses because I had team roped a lot before I came to Alberta when I was a teenager. And I didn't really get into specialized stuff until I was training for about 5 years. And actually Dave Manning came to Claresholm and put on a clinic, and I took the clinic. And I come home, and I was married by then and a couple of kids, and I came home and told my wife, I said, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. And I'd already started a horse a little while before, 6 months before that, and sent him home that I figured was the horse. So I phoned the guy and I said, I think that horse should be a snaffle-bit working cow horse, and if you'd bring him back to me, I'll train him for nothing. All you have to do is pay the entry fees in the fall. And that's what we did. And I ended up 6th in that snaffle-bit futurity that fall with him. A few years later, I took a cutting clinic from Bill Collins at Claresholm. And I thought, this is a little even more back to my roots than the cow horse thing. And it just sort of evolved into me doing both and reining and the cutting deal, reining cow horse and the cutting.
Coming up on the Rangeland News, we'll look at the North American cattle inventory, a new category of driver's licenses for farm and ranch workers, and much more when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Now, I'm not sure why, but for some reason, my Facebook news feed is full of suggestions for improving my health and well-being by suggesting things like eating differently, living a healthier life, And I get all kinds of suggestions for removing stress. Well, let me tell you, cyberspace self-styled experts, there is one way that I know works way better than all of that stuff, and expressed here in a song from Jared Rogerson called simply, Ride My Horse More.
City smoke in the air, you can't see it from anywhere. There's a million people driving around, going nowhere. Buildings grew up all around me, but I still got a painted pony. Gonna give her a job, 'cause she's fat and bored. I'm gonna ride my horse more. Well, I love to drive my truck. The open road feels pretty good. But just because you can doesn't mean that you always should. And I can hardly breathe. Man, this is killing me. I'm gonna ride my horse more. Mother Nature, she's been beat up. I'd say she's been abused. Now even the ocean's black and blue. Gasoline just turns to haze, and my wallet's on empty anyways. Holding the reins is something I can afford, so I'm gonna ride my horse more. Well, I love to drive my truck. The open road feels pretty good. But just because you can doesn't mean that you always should. And I can hardly breathe. Man, this is killing me. I'm gonna ride my horse more. Everybody's got an answer for the problems of today. Well, you can find your own solution. As for me, I found my way. 'Cause I can hardly breathe. Man, this is killing me. I'm gonna ride my horse more. Let's ride.
From a radiator cap to an engine block, BCTractorParts.com is your source for whatever you need to keep that essential implement in top shape. Specializing in quality new replacement parts for agricultural tractors, Massey Ferguson, Ford, John Deere, David Brown, Case, International Harvester, Universal Deutz Leyland, Landini, Oliver Fiat, Alice, Zetor, White, and a lot more. If you don't have internet, just call Mark at 250-395-0960. One click or one call, and the parts will be on their way. BCTractorParts.com.
The Rangeland News from the Spirit of the West. A roundup of issues and events from the world of agriculture.
At the top of page 1, it says it sounds like good news for cattle producers, but not good news if you're buying beef at the meat counter. Latest cattle on feed numbers are in, and here's Rod Bain.
The summary from livestock analyst Michael McConnell.
Inventories are going down, but the market hasn't seen as much cattle marketed, so that's kind of kept the inventory levels from falling even further.
So looking at the numbers for the month of May.
On June 1st, there was 11.44 million head of cattle in those feedlots, which is 1% lower than a year ago. That was a result of placements during the month of May, totaling 1.89 million head, which was 8% lower than a year ago.
Yet for marketings of fed cattle,
marketings came in at 1.76 million head, which was 10% lower than a year ago. Although if you account for the one fewer slaughter day, it was about 6% lower in this past May versus last May.
The tighter inventories in cattle feedlots are just one component behind supportive prices for beef.
Whether it be for feeder cattle, for fed cattle, or for beef at the wholesale or retail level. So overall, those tight supplies are resulting in supportive pricing all throughout the value chain.
I'm Rod Bain reporting.
You know, I've had my Class 1 driver's license since about 1974, and I still have it along with my air brake endorsement. I need the driver's medical exam every year. That's kind of expensive, but we still haul cattle and horses around in our stock trailer, and I think I could still back up a B-train if I had to. But how about this? Alberta's Class 1 Learning Pathway Grant Program offers employers up to $25,000 per new hire to support training, onboarding, and professional development. The initiative is part of the Employment Pathway Grant designed to ease the financial burden on employers while ensuring that new drivers are well prepared for the demands of the road for Alberta's farms, where reliable transportation is critical. Class 1 Farm Exemption Driver's License allows farm employees to operate Class 1 vehicles under special farm-related conditions without the need for pre-licensing training. After 1 year with a farm exemption Class 1, restricted people can have their restrictions removed with approximately 3 days of training and $2,500. A Class 1 license normally requires 68 hours of training, passing an air brake exam, and a medical, 25 hours of competency training to have the restrictions removed. But after 2 years of having a Class 3 license, you can complete 30 hours of training and pass a road test to receive a Class 1 restricted, and also the 25 hours of competency training to have the restriction removed. The Saskatchewan Crop Insurance Corporation is implementing urgent support for producers dealing with ongoing dry conditions. The federal and provincial agriculture ministers have announced changes that allow low-yielding crop acres to be salvaged for livestock feed through a doubled low-yield appraisal threshold. This policy encourages farmers and ranchers to redirect crops with poor yield potential to be grazed, baled, or used as silage, providing much-needed feed to livestock producers. All qualifying acres must be put to approved alternate use before compensation and can't be harvested. Farmers are advised to contact their local SCIC office before making changes. Well, it's going to be a great time at Caroline. The Caroline Cowboy Music and Poetry gathering is set for September 12th to the 14th, and if you'd like to know more about it, I think they still have tickets left, but from what I've heard, they're really going fast. You can give Darryl a call at 403-722-3232. Great performers, man. It'd be worth going there just to see Tom Cole, and there's so many others besides. And the 6th annual Medicine Hat Cowboy Poetry and Music Gathering is coming up September 26th and 27th. I'll be there with a great Western Spirit Band, and if you'd like more information on that, go to mhcowboylife.com or call 403-529-6384. And if you're looking for a great place to market your cattle, find the best replacements and grass cattle around, then I would suggest the Innisfail Auction Market, Innisfail, Alberta. Regular cattle sales with all classes of cattle, of course, every Wednesday. And if you check their website, InnisfailAuctionMarket.com, you'll find the latest market reports, upcoming sales, special events, and much more. And you can also call Danny, Mark, or Dwayne, Danny, or Mark, try to get them in the right order, I guess, at 1-800-710-3166. Now, the final item. One of my neighbors was driving home from town, and the road is pretty windy from there up to our place here. And he came around a corner and he found some of our other neighbors, actually two 21-year-old young fellas who'd been heading home with a great big load of square bales on their flat deck. And it looked like they took the corner just a bit too fast, and about 100 75-pound square bales were spilled out all over the road in a big pile. And the boys had really worked up a sweat trying to get them off the road and back onto the trailer, so Gord said, "Boy, I bet you guys could use a break, and I've got a cooler with some cold beer in it. Here, why don't you each take one?" And they said, "No, we can't do that. Our dad wouldn't like it." And, well, Gordon said, "I don't see him anyway. Where is he?" And they said, "Well, he's under the bales." And that's the Rangeland News. Okay. All right, now here's a lesson in cutting horse or even quarter horse conformation from Jim Reeder.
We had a mare that foaled in early April. By June that foal was looking kind of weird. Well, he had all the parts required to be living, but it seemed to me a few of them might be missing. His back legs were long and his front legs were short like a kangaroo. That's the truth. But I tell you, friend, he could run like the wind, the bolt out of the shoe. His conformation defied what I believed in. But my daughter said, "Hey, Daddy, we gotta keep him." Well, call me crazy, my mind just a little bit hazy, but I let that girl train the pony. And I wouldn't have believed it, that this misshapen little misfit could outwork and outperform my whole outfit. We pride ourselves on pure, impressive bloodlines. We got quarter horses and some paints. And if I don't feel they fit the traits we look for, I sell them as a stock horse at reduced rates. Now I'll never judge the heart by the ugly looking parts anymore. That's for sure. Gonna keep my mind wide open 'cause of that colt that had me fooled. I still think he moves like a pair of ladders, but he's quick and smart and the rest don't really matter. Call me crazy, my mind just a little bit hazy, but I let that girl train the pony. And I wouldn't have believed it, that misshapen little misfit could outwork and outperform my whole outfit.
I always like that line. I still think he walks like a pair of ladders. Anyway, coming up in the Irvin Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File, a few things that might make it easier to get up in the saddle. And then more from Les Timmons when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Getting on your horse when you're getting on in years can be a challenge, but I'll try and help on the Irvin Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File coming right up. We still have a few spots available on the 2026 Spirit of the West Cruise, a once-in-a-lifetime bucket list journey aboard Oceania's beautiful new ship, the Vista. On February 16th, our group flies to Lima, Peru, then visits exotic Machu Picchu, and you'll spend the next 15 days cruising and exploring some of the most exotic ports ever. And you don't have to walk or climb mountains. We've lined up trains and planes and ground transportation for anyone with mobility issues. Every cabin has a balcony, drinks, gratuity, and Wi-Fi all included, and specialty dining restaurants at no extra charge. Our allotment of cabins is almost full, but if you act fast, we might still be able to get you on board. See the cruise page at hugh-mclennan.com and call 1-800-530-0131. Saddles to the left, saddles to the right, saddles here, there, and everywhere at Urban Tack and Western Wear. My friends at Urban's tell me that they have over 1,300 in stock, over 1,300. And they said count them if you want to, but I'll pass. Stop in and see for yourself. Highest quality from the best names in the biz. Saddles, saddles, and more saddles at Urban Tack and Western Wear. Open 7 days a week, exit 305 off Highway 2 by Crossfield.
The world's greatest Western store.
Seems simple enough, getting on your horse, but the older we get, the taller the horses seem to get. There is something simple, though, that you can do that will make it easier. I was reminded of this when a listener said he had a fairly small horse, barely weighs 900 pounds, and he's not real tall. Neither is the horse. And he tries to hold the saddle horn with both hands and pull himself up, but as soon as he's about ready to lift his right leg over, the horse moves away, throwing the rider off balance. Okay, this would be easier to demonstrate than describe, but the first thing I would probably do is the most important thing, and that's to make sure the horse is standing square. If his front feet are closer than a foot together, push and pull on the saddle horn until he moves his front feet to the position where they're further apart. And that way, he won't be pulled off balance when you start to pull yourself up. And then rather than put both hands on the horn, I'd suggest your right hand on the horn, your left hand with the reins, and on his neck with a handful of mane. Try to use the mane for most of the pull as you swing up. And also try to make sure that there's enough pressure to turn his head slightly towards you so you can see his left eye. And ideally, you'd like the horse to stand perfectly still until you're in the saddle with both feet in the stirrups. But you know, my roan mare Cody is pretty good at helping me get on by gently turning in towards me as I swing up. So I don't mind if she does that. As soon as I'm in the saddle, though, I will ask her to stand still for a minute or two before we move out. Now, somebody said, why not hold the reins and the horn in your left hand and put your right hand on the cantle and get on that way? Well, because at some point then, my right hand has to move from the cantle to the horn, and for a moment there I only have 2 points of contact instead of 3. I hope this helps, and that's the horse training file. Something else that we find helps is a daily feeding of Hoffman's Horse Ration. Find out all about it at hoffmanshorseproducts.com. Now, there's a cutting horse competitor who actually was born and raised in Germany, and that's where he started riding. He's in North America now, not only excelling in performance horse competitions, but really writing and performing great music too. You'll hear one of his songs after a look back with Les Timmons.
Now, what about the top level of competition that you see and you mentor folks with today? Is it a lot different than it was back then?
It's different in that it's more specialized. You don't see the, if you want to use the term, all-around cowboys so much, or people that, I mean, a lot of our good hands are pretty all-around. They'll team rope as more as a hobby or do something like that, but the people that actually show cow horses, and then the next weekend they're showing cutters, and then the next weekend they're showing rope horses, the industry doesn't allow us to do that anymore. We have to be more specialized so we don't spread ourselves so thin that you end up so diversified that you don't actually do a good job at any one of them.
Mm-hmm. And you plan to, you do a lot of schooling, a lot of mentoring to young riders, and a lot of training. Do you see yourself doing more training, maybe doing more clinic seminars? What directions would you like to see the future take for you?
Yeah, probably backing off a bit in the training world and more clinics and a lot more judging. I do quite a bit of judging across Canada too. So judging, clinics, and stuff like that.
Right.
Robert George wrote this song as a tribute to one of his favorite horses.
The last time I saw him alive was in the first rays of the morning light, breathing in the February air. I watched him break into a run, then every rodeo we ever won came flooding back
I grin from ear to ear. A horse like that comes along once in a lifetime. When I lost him, I lost myself in prayer. Searched the Bible, found the story. Horses carrying God's glory with the winds to every corner of the earth. Father, tell me if you can, does my horse carry the wind? Does he fly with angels' wings above the ocean? When I die, will you wash my sins so I can ride him once again? 'Cause I don't know when I've been this lost and lonesome. Father, tell me if you can, does my horse carry the wind? He used to bravely work the cows, then turn gentleman when there were kids around. A horse like that can't stay down forever. Guess he was needed up in heaven. Father, tell me if you can, does my horse carry the wind? Does he fly with angels' wings above the ocean? When I die, will you wash my sins so I can ride him once again? 'Cause I don't know when I've been this lost and lonesome. Father, tell me if you can, does my horse carry the wind? Father, tell me if you can, does my horse carry the wind? Does he fly with angels' wings above the ocean? When I die, will you wash my sins so I can ride him once again? 'Cause I don't know when I've been this lost and lonesome. Father, tell me if you can, does my horse carry the wind?
It's called Carry the Wind from the German cowboy Robert George. Comes with a beautiful video on YouTube too. Still to come, another good song, and then the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West, where we bring you the flavor of the real West and search out the musical ranges for the pure songs of the cowboy, set to the rhythm of the hoofbeats, like this brand new one from three Oklahoma cowboy brothers known together as Steel Dust.
Just riding along all the day long with a mind full of freedom, a heart full of song. I ain't got no worries, I ain't got no blues. Might as well be happy, got nothing to lose. Ain't got no worries, ain't got no blues. Might as well be happy, got nothing to lose. I'm just riding along all the day long with a mind full of freedom and a heart full of song. Saddle up my pony, pack up my grip, riding across the prairie, gonna take me a trip. I don't have to hurry, no need to run, 'cause I know when I get there, I'll have me some fun. Ain't got no worry, ain't got no blue. Might as well be happy, got nothing to lose. Just riding along all the day long, with a mind full of freedom and a heart full of song. With a mind full of freedom, a heart full of song.
That's called, as you might have guessed, A Heart Full of Song with Steel Dust. And now to continue with those sentiments on the riches of this special way of life that few are privileged to live by choice. In the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight, here's working cowboy Kelly Bulow.
They wonder why I chose this job over all I could have had. They say maybe I've gone crazy, and they just can't understand what attracts me so much to the back of that wild equine that I'd want to spend the rest of my life directing misguided bovines. Well, I start to tell them how our jobs are much the same, because while they're out doing one thing, I do a job of the very same name. Well, the businessman exclaims that he's just closed a deal. I've just closed a C-section, and I'm hoping it's going to heal. As his secretary files documents and papers for a later date, I'm filing my hoof knife sharp, while my horse stands and waits. While the computer tech works away in his custom lumbar chair, I'm sitting in my custom saddle, and riding my smoothest mare. While he captures a connection upon that internet web, while I capture a bovine critter with a loop thrown over her head. The stockbroker, well, he tries to make money as he's selling out his stock, and I'm trying hard to do the same as my calves cross the auction block. The warehouse man takes inventory at the end of every month, and I do the same when I need a loan, when I end up in a crunch. But I don't care if they don't understand, 'cause what I really hope they see is that they can have their high-paying jobs, 'cause it's a cowboy's life for me.
Thank you so much for riding along, and I sure hope you can join us right here next week for another collection of stories, songs, and poems about the real West. And thanks again to Mark and Kathy McMillan, our great support crew. And remember, you can get every program with video on our YouTube channel. And if you subscribe to SOTW55, that really helps us. You can find great articles and photos of the Canadian West in every issue of Canadian Cowboy Country Magazine. To subscribe, just go to cowboycountrymagazine.com. Till next week, I'm Hugh McLennan. Hope to see you down the trail somewhere real soon.